Boston architecture. Boston's architecture is a unique combination of old and modern buildings. As one of the oldest cities in North America, Boston has preserved buildings and structures dating from the 17th century to the present day. Thanks to its development, the city has become a major center of education, industry, finance, and technology. Here you can see beautiful granite buildings dating back to the beginning of its history, as well as examples of federal architecture. 1. Colonial and post-revolutionary periods. Boston was founded by Puritan settlers who brought architecture with them from England. This style evolved over time into colonial, blending with other styles such as Georgian architecture. Several buildings, such as the Paul Revere House, the Old State House, and Faneuil Hall, are examples of this style. After the American Revolution, many fortifications were built, especially in Dorchester Heights. After the war, federal architecture flourished in the city, and architects Charles Bulfinch and Asher Benjamin became leaders in the style. The Greek Revival was also an influence, and Faneuil Hall and the Massachusetts State House are examples of this style. In the Beacon Hill area, many buildings are in the federal style. 2. 19th century. In the early 19th century, Boston faced the challenge of urbanization and infrastructure development. Many buildings in the city were uncomfortable and unheated, which caused criticism among residents. Influenced by architect Gridley J.F. Bryant, who made a significant contribution to the architecture of the city, began to build many public buildings in the Victorian style. As the son of engineer Gridley Bryant, Bryant inherited a talent for designing and constructing buildings. He contributed to the construction of such significant structures as the Quincy School, the second addition to the Massachusetts State House, the 1847 version of Salem Station, and many other buildings. Architects John Hubbard Sturgis and Charles Brigham also played an important role in the architectural development of the city, who had a significant influence and created a firm specializing in the construction of public buildings. Railway stations such as the South Station and the North Station were designed by famous architects and became important centers of the city's transport infrastructure, providing convenient movement of passengers and goods. In the late 19th century, Boston also became a key military center during the Civil War. The city played an important role in the movement of troops and providing the army with material resources. Many buildings and streets were adapted for the needs of the army, which emphasizes the importance of the city in military terms. Ultimately, Boston went through significant development during the 19th century, becoming a more industrialized and developed city. Architectural work, the construction of train stations, and the city's participation in important historical events gave impetus to modernization and strengthened Boston's position as one of the leading cities in the United States. 3. 20th century. During the 20th century, Boston saw significant changes in the city's architectural setting. Art Deco buildings and taller structures became increasingly popular. During this period, significant structures were built, such as the Custom House Tower and Boston City Hall, which became symbols of the city. One significant development was the construction of the interstate highway system, which began in the second half of the century. This process led to improvements in the city's infrastructure, but also caused destruction and transportation problems. The Central Artery and the Massachusetts Turnpike became important road structures, but also led to traffic jams and criticism from city residents. The second half of the 20th century saw the construction of Boston's two tallest buildings, the Prudential Tower and the John Hancock Tower. They became symbols of the city and formed a string of skyscrapers in the Back Bay. Additionally, Many skyscrapers were built in the financial district during this period. Overall, Boston's architectural landscape underwent significant changes during the 20th century, reflecting the city's development and layout. 4. 21st century. In the early 2000s, one of the largest engineering projects in Boston was the Big Dig, which moved the elevated portion of the Central Artery underground into tunnels. This resulted in the release of space, which was transformed into new streets and the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Public Park. Also at this time, I-90 was extended to Boston Logan Airport. In the 2000s, the city began a revival of skyscraper construction after a dormant decade in the 1990s. Modern skyscrapers were built, including the Millennium Tower, as well as buildings incorporating elements of past styles such as Art Deco, like 1 Lincoln Street.